When Mumbi, a girl from a humble background, lands a scholarship at a prestigious school for the wealthy, she enters a world of riches she never imagined. But beneath the glamour, darkness stirs. Not everyone is ready to accept her. As she struggles to fit in, battling the bullying, the cruelty of her new classmates who call her useless, she finds an unexpected friend in Amanda, the daughter of the city's powerful governor. Just as life seems to brighten, one night changes everything. A sleepover gone wrong, Mumbi goes missing, and her mother's worst nightmare begins. Mumbi's mother begins a desperate search for her daughter, where everyone is hiding something, everyone is lying, and the powerful hide behind their wealth. But as Wanja continues to uncover secrets behind her daughter's disappearance, one haunting question remains. Where is Mumbi? What happened to Mumbi that fateful night? Join us in this story as we find that out. Mumbi held the letter in her hands, her eyes wide with disbelief. The neat black print was still sinking in. Congratulations, you have been awarded a full scholarship to Green Hills Academy. Green Hills Academy wasn't just any school. It was a prestigious private institution where the wealthiest families in the region sent their children. For Mumbi, a 12-year-old girl living in a squeezed single-room house with her mother Wanja, this was nothing short of a miracle. She knew her mother struggled to make ends meet with her job as a tailor. This scholarship meant the chance of a better education and life, something that her mother had dreamed of for her. Mama, I got the scholarship. Mumbi shouted, running to the small sewing table where Wanja sat, patching an old dress for a client. Wanja looked up, her eyes softening with pride. I knew you could do it, my sweet girl, she whispered, hugging Mumbi. This is the beginning of your future. But as joy filled the air, a shadow of unease settled in Wanja's heart. Green Hills was in a world so far from their own. Would Mumbi be able to survive there? The day Mumbi arrived at Green Hills Academy, everything felt different. The gates to the prestigious academy loomed high, and the polished floors gleamed under her worn shoes as she stepped inside. Mumbi stood inside the school compound, gripping her bag tightly as sleek cars rolled into the parking lot. She felt small and out of place, surrounded by the children of politicians, CEOs, and celebrities. They wore spotless uniforms and carried designer bags that looked like they cost more than 2 months of Wanja's rent. As she walked through the hallway, students turned to stare. Some glanced at her uniform, which, though neat, lacked the designer labels most of the other students wore. Some students even whispered to each other, casting quick judgmental looks her way. Is that the scholarship girl? One girl murmured to her friend, just loud enough for Mumbi to hear. I heard she comes from, one of those poor neighborhoods where people don't even know how to bathe. They looked at her and started laughing. Mumbi's cheeks grew warm, but she kept walking, her eyes fixed straight ahead. She could feel the stares, others looking at her up and down, clearly looking down upon her, but Mumbi kept going. As she passed by a group of girls, one of them snickered. Do you think she even knows how to use an iPad? I bet she's never even seen one. They laughed, their voices echoing down the corridor. Mumbi's hands tightened around her bag strap and she took a deep breath, reminding herself why she was there. This was her chance, her opportunity to build a better future for herself and her mother. She remembered her mother's words. You belong there. Don't let anyone make you feel and think otherwise. Mumbi thought she had seen it all until during the maths lesson. As the maths teacher began writing a new problem on the board, Mumbi sat at the edge of her seat, her mind racing to solve it. She loved maths and was used to actively participating in class back at her old school. When the teacher turned to the class and asked, "Who can solve this question for us?" Mumbi's hands shot up without hesitation. She glanced around, expecting to see a few other hands in the air, but to her surprise, not a single hand was raised. Her classmates were either scribbling in their notebooks without looking up, or idly gazing out of the window. Some looked as if they were hardly paying attention. The teacher, noticing her hand, smiled. "Yes, Mumbi, go ahead." Mumbi stood up and confidently gave her answer. The teacher nodded approvingly and moved on, but a strange silence lingered. She sat down, feeling a few eyes on her. One of the girls sitting near her leaned over and whispered, "You don't have to answer every question, you know. Nobody cares about that stuff here." Mumbi blinked, confused. What kind of school is this that students don't even care about their education? She wondered. Mumbi had only been at the school for a few days, and already she could feel different. During lunch, she quietly found a corner at the dining hall, hoping to eat in peace. But as she unpacked her simple meal, she heard footsteps approaching. Diana, along with a couple of her friends, had spotted Mumbi. They stopped in front of her, looking her up and down with disdain. "So, this is the scholarship girl, huh?" Diana said with a smirk on her face. "Guess they'll just let anyone in here these days." Mumbi lowered her gaze, gripping her lunchbox tightly. She tried to focus on her food, ignoring the laughter that was beginning to circle around her. "What's in here? Something from the village, I bet," another girl added. "Hope it doesn't stink up the whole school." Just as they were about to pour food on her, a voice rang across the dining hall, strong and clear. "Leave her alone." It was Amanda, the governor's daughter. She had just returned from a family trip and was watching the scene with narrowed eyes. She walked over to the group, standing directly in front of Diana and her friends. "Picking on someone just because they are new? That's pretty pathetic," Amanda said. Diana's smirk faded and her friends shuffled uncomfortably. "We were just talking." "Doesn't look like it. Don't you ever bully her again, unless you want me to spill out your secrets to everyone in school," Amanda said sharply. She then turned to Mumbi, giving her a warm smile. "Hey, come and sit with me. I am Amanda." Unsure but grateful, Mumbi nodded and picked her lunch, walking alongside Amanda to a quieter spot. From that day on, Amanda and Mumbi became inseparable. Amanda introduced her to the better parts of the school life, and Mumbi was never bullied again because everyone feared Amanda. Despite their differences, they connected deeply. Amanda was fascinated by Mumbi's intelligence and her stories about her life in the ghetto neighborhood where she lived, and Mumbi marveled at Amanda's tales of private trips abroad and lavish family gatherings. Mumbi was grateful to have a friend who didn't judge her for being poor. Life in Green Hills Academy now felt enjoyable. One day, Amanda asked, "Mumbi, why don't you ever come for sleepovers? We'd have so much fun." Mumbi hesitated. Sleepovers were for the rich. She couldn't imagine staying a place so different from her humble home. Besides, her mother Wanja was strict, very strict. Every time Mumbi asked to stay over at Amanda's, the answers was always the same: no. "It's not that I don't want to," Mumbi explained, "but my mom won't allow it." Amanda tilted her head, confused. "Why not?" "She says it's not safe. She doesn't trust anyone," Mumbi sighed. One evening, while Mumbi was doing her homework, Wanja's phone rang. Mumbi watched as her mother's face changed from concern to panic. "Your grandmother is very sick," Wanja whispered. "I have to go see her tonight." Mumbi's heart sank. "Can I come with you, Mama?" Wanja shook her head. "It's too far, Mumbi. I need to leave now and I can't leave you alone." Wanja paused, her mind racing for a solution. Finally, she said, "Maybe, just this once, you can stay over at Amanda's place." Mumbi's eyes lit up. "Really? Amanda will be so excited." Wanja nodded reluctantly. "But listen carefully. Take the bus to Mlezi Street and go straight to Amanda's house. No stopping anywhere. Promise me. And you two will not give Amanda's mom a hard time. You'll obey her. Promise me." "I promise you, Mama," Mumbi said, hugging her mother tightly. Wanja called Amanda's parents to confirm the arrangement, and they agreed. Mumbi was overjoyed as she packed her things for her first sleepover at Amanda's, and soon Mumbi was on the bus heading to Amanda's. Mumbi sat near the window, watching the city lights blur as the bus sped along. She was excited but also nervous. She kept looking at the piece of paper with Amanda's address written in her mother's neat handwriting. The bus conductor called out the next stop, Mlezi Street. Mumbi stood up, gripping her bag. As she stepped off the bus, she noticed how quiet the street was. The grand houses loomed behind tall gates, their lights glowing warmly in the night. Just as she began walking towards the governor's mansion, a sleek black car pulled up beside her. The tinted window rolled down, revealing a smiling driver. "Are you Mumbi? Amanda's parents sent me to pick you up," he said cheerfully. Mumbi hesitated, her mother's warnings flashing through her mind. But the man's kind smile and friendly voice reassured her. Besides, Amanda's family was rich. Maybe they did send a car. "Okay," Mumbi whispered, climbing into the back seat. As the car pulled away, Mumbi watched Mlezi Street disappear behind her. She felt a strange sense of unease settle in her stomach, but she shook it off. She was going to Amanda's house. Everything will be fine, right? Wanja spent a restless night at the hospital with her sick mother, but as dawn broke, her thoughts turned to Mumbi. She dialed Amanda's house, eager to hear her daughter's voice. Amanda's mother answered, sounding confused. "Wanja, Mumbi never arrived last night. We waited, but she didn't show up." Wanja felt the ground shift beneath her feet. "But she took the bus. I saw the bus leaving myself. I told her to go straight to your house." "I am so sorry, Wanja. We thought you might have changed your plan," Amanda's mother replied, her voice filled with concern. Wanja's heart pounded with panic. She immediately left the hospital, her thoughts racing. How could Mumbi have gone missing in such a short time? Where was she? She had always been responsible, knowing the bus routes and street names well. Where could she be? Wanja rushed to the bus station, her face pale and drawn. She needed answers. She found the bus conductor from the night before and asked if he remembered seeing her daughter. "Yes, I remember her," the conductor said, scratching his head. "She got off at Mlezi Street just like she was supposed to." "But did you see where she went after that?" Wanja pressed. The conductor hesitated, glancing at the bus driver who stood nearby. "She walked down the street. That's all I saw. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary." Wanja's suspicion grew. There was something off in the way they exchanged glances. It felt like they knew more than they were saying. She decided she would have to dig deeper, even if it meant going to the authorities. At the local police station, Wanja's desperation was met with indifference. The officer in charge barely looked up from his paperwork. "We'll file a missing persons report, but you should know, cases like this usually resolve themselves. She probably just went to a friend's house." "No," Wanja's voice trembled with anger. "My daughter is not the kind to wander off. She was supposed to be at her friend's house for a sleepover. She never arrived." The officer sighed, putting his pen down. "You said she got off at Mlezi Street. That's near the governor's place. Are you sure there wasn't a mix-up? Wanja shook her head. No, this is not a mix-up. She was supposed to go to the governor's house for a sleepover since she attends the same school with his daughter. The officer exchanged a look with another officer standing nearby, then said, "We'll keep an eye out, but with the governor involved, things can get complicated." As Wanja left the police station, she realized that the police will not help her. But the question that kept running in her mind was, who would help her find her daughter? The next day, Wanja went to Mlezi Street determined to find her daughter. She walked slowly along the road, looking for any clue or sign of Mumbi. As she neared the gate of the governor's luxurious mansion, a security guard stepped out. "Can I help you, ma'am?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. "I'm looking for my daughter. She was dropped here last night," Wanja explained. "Maybe someone here saw her." The guard's expression remained unchanged. "No children came here last night. Only authorized visitors can enter the governor's residence." Wanja was not convinced. She could sense the truth was just out of her reach, hiding behind the grand gates. She turned to leave, but not before noticing a glint of something shiny near the side of the road. She walked over and saw it was Mumbi's hair clip, the one she always wore. A wave of dread washed over her. Her daughter had been there. Days turned into weeks, and there was still no sign of Mumbi. Amanda, the governor's daughter, who had become Mumbi's close friend, had also started asking questions at home. She couldn't understand why her father, the governor, seemed uncomfortable every time she mentioned Mumbi. "Dad, do you know anything about Mumbi's disappearance?" Amanda asked one evening as they sat for dinner. The governor stiffened. "What kind of question is that? No, I don't know anything about your poor friend's disappearance, and I don't want you to get involved in that bullshit, okay?" "But she's my friend," Amanda protested. "I want to help find her." The governor's face darkened. "Stay out of this, Amanda. Eat your food and stay out of things that do not concern you," he said in a tone that silenced any further questions. Amanda felt a chill run down her spine. It was as though her father was hiding something he didn't want her or anyone else to find out. Meanwhile, Wanja decided to turn to the media since the police wouldn't help. She knew that if Mumbi's story gained public attention, there will be more pressure on the authorities to act. She visited local radio stations pleading with reporters to cover her daughter's disappearance, but they all refused. The governor's family was powerful, and a few were willing to take the risk of going against them. Finally, a young journalist named Andrew agreed to listen to Wanja's story. He worked for a small independent newspaper and wasn't afraid of stepping on toes. "I'll help you," Andrew said after hearing Wanja's account. "But we need more evidence, something solid." After a few days, Andrew came to Wanja's house with information that shocked Wanja. "I interviewed one of the governor's neighbors, and she told me that she saw a girl entering a black car that night, and the girl seemed unsure. And then the car drove off." Who are those people who took Mumbi, and what did they want with her daughter? She wondered. One day, as Wanja was crying holding her daughter's photo, she received an anonymous phone call. A woman's voice, shaky with fear, whispered, "I know what happened to your daughter, but I can't talk on the phone. Meet me at the market at midnight." Wanja's heart raced. Could this be the breakthrough she needed? She told Andrew about the call, and together they planned to meet the mysterious informant. They knew it was risky, but Wanja was willing to do whatever it took to find Mumbi. What exactly does this woman know about Mumbi's disappearance? And who is she? And will Wanja finally find her daughter? Join us in part 2 as we find that out. And my loves, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when I drop the part 2 video. Let's meet in part 2. But for now, kwaheri!